So don't you? So you mean that we should limit the access because we need to tell laws about it, and we should limit access to, from other people. And the first is about market. You mentioned that there is no connection, but certainly there is some connection because we mentioned that public health service should do so. And when we consider if we should do so or not, we should consider consequence. And definitely economic market is certainly one of the consequences it can bring. So that's when we consider the pro and con, and we choose to vote for con because we have own reason, and this is one of the reasons. Thank you. That's all my case.
First, I would like to ask a question. You mentioned that the meeting in Hong Kong, and then multiple scientists disagree with what the scientists in China did. So I want to ask you a very simple question. Yes. What do you define public health service? Do you define it as the opinion of multiple scientists, or do you define it as the general public?
Well, I argue that the scientists are actually consultants because the public health services is mostly actually a branch of the government, and it's about the art and science of promoting people's well-being, health, and to solve the problem.
So if we expand access to public health service, we should consider the public opinion, right? But we have a resource that from the Southeastern University, they do a survey, and more than 60% of people agree that we should expand gene editing technology, and most of them are disabled people. So should we expand access, consider their thinking? We are going to help them.
Well, I argue that your statistics is actually very old. I have another statistics saying that 57% of people, about 57% people is actually voting pro for this technology, and I think it's held worldwide. And then it's my turn to ask you a question.
Maybe I think that what you meant that biohackers, and you mean that biohackers is the one who first gets access to it, but I cannot support. Since you mentioned that it is about government, so why do you mention that biohackers are the first to merge? So it's contradiction.
We never mentioned that biohackers is the first to expand this kind of access. And then I want to say about biohackers that I was asking you to claim the relationship between biohackers and
I perfectly claim the relationship.
That the relationship between bioweapon and then expanding access.
Yes.
Yeah, but you gave me the explanation of bio.
I don't like to say that, but I found many.
So you didn't answer my question.
Yeah, I've certainly answered your question. I claimed the relationship efficiently when I said that the $500 gene tool kits shouldn't appear in the markets. And the reason why it's appearing in the markets is because the public health did not set enough reviewing process for this product to enter the market because biohackers are
But just because there are some biohackers existing in our world, so we should set a law to protect it. If we don't expand the access, only a few people have this knowledge about gene editing technology. So what should we do? Just let the hackers control the knowledge?
I see your point. Please let me respond. I have seen that a coin always has two sides, and you just think that it can, if we expand access, we can protect them. So, but you forget that if we expand access, they are more likely to access this technology, and they are more likely to make use of it. So please just ignore the whole picture, right?
So can you clarify it if we expand
it's
access to
our turn to ask you a question, please. Okay. Are you aware of the fact that there is a death in University of Pennsylvania in 2015 that held back the whole field for 3 to 5 years? Do you realize this will take no more than one death to hold back the field? I'm sorry.
Excuse me, can you use the rest of our prep time, please?
Okay, 30 seconds.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, time's up.
My opponent ready?
Yes.
Are the judges ready? Is my partner ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start the time in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. first, we attacked their framework, and they never responded because their framework does have a problem. They mentioned that this technology is being well developed, but they stated many issues about this technology, so their framework doesn't work on us. And then they also talk about CRISPR being the most effective way right now existing, but yet it still has 40% of the off-target mutations, so we think by expanding, the 40% can be decreased. And then they also, and I asked them about the straight relationship between bioweapons and expanding access, but they explained the relationship between biohackers and the expand access, so they never answered my question. And then I asked them to clarify biohacker. What is biohacker? They never answered my question. And then they also talk about market, but our side thinks that market doesn't have the straight relationship between the market and public health service is very weak. So we think that their contentions, most of their contentions didn't survive, and because they stated many contentions and many subpoints, and then the logic between them are very weak. So we think we don't have enough time to attack every contention, every subpoints. So I'm gonna state the ones that we think is most important. And then for our side, we talked about curing diseases and preventing diseases. They never attacked us on preventing diseases. So assume that genetic editing technology can prevent diseases. And then they talked about our second point. They attacked by saying that we cannot cure the diseases, and I think my opponent is misunderstanding the meaning of expand access. Doesn't mean that we're going to use it right away. We're just trying to put more people, more facilities to expand this kind of technology. And then for the third point, they never gave us a clear rebuttal in social justice point. So we think three of our contentions survived. For all those reasons, please vote pro.
Can I use the rest of my prep time, please?
Time's up.
Thank you. If everyone else is ready, I'd like to start in 3, 2, 1. Firstly, I'd like to point out a fatal logical defect of their argument. They've been always claiming the benefit of this technology, but they're never saying the restriction being too strict. We are claiming that we already have enough access to the GMO and mature gene editing technology. And then I'd like to point out that how they say we didn't respond to several of the points. In fact, we've responded to all of them. They said that we don't respond to the prevent disease contention. Well, we responded by pointing out that there are much more effective and cheaper substitutes of this technology by PGD and vitro fertilization, which I mentioned before. They are testabilities and pre-pregnancy screening. And then they said how this technology is going to be cheaper after the access is expanded. Well, I argue that the United States government has spent $45 billion to $110 billion on this, and the result is not as rewarding as the input. So I think that the money should be spent on more issues such as sanitation, water pollution, and education. And then they never responded to our points of eugenics about how it will cost everybody to become to become the same because our society is just not mature enough to accept a ton of technology in which we can fully use to modify our look because how narrow our opinion is on the sense of beauty or health, because that is just not mature. Our society is just not mature enough. And then they said how we didn't respond to the biohackers and biowebs. We've already perfectly clarified the relationship between this topic in the crossfire just now. I've said that if the public health put more restriction on this technology, it will have the less possibility to fall into the private market and some evil billionaires. And then they said how our point about the uncertain market is invalid. Well, I argue that it's supported by facts that many market failures has been caused because of this excessive access of genetic editing technology. Time's up. Thank you.